How's going, guys? So, 13th of August, there's two things happening in Arknights. First, the big thing is Arknights PC client is coming, and we've been waiting for this day for ages. It should have came like I think a few months ago if we were doing CN schedule, but obviously they had to delay it. But I'm still very excited. Can't wait to run the game perfectly, 120 hertz on my PC. That would be so much better. The other thing is we're getting a new event, and with new event, as you can see on the screen, we are getting new banner. So this time it's about Pull Bellone. I really can't pronounce his name. I'm just really sorry, Italians, if I butchered his name, but I'll just call him that for the time being. So, quick answer for this banner, to be honest, is even though his numbers look really impressive, like his damage looks impressive, I would highly recommend most people to just skip this banner. Unless you're really new to the game, then there is some strength that you can use him with, but we'll talk about that when we talk about his skills. So let's get into the operator. So here we have Bellone. He is a fighter class. So as you can see here, very low cost to deploy, only blocks one. Not the tankiest when it comes to survivability, but good attack value. Take a look at his traits, and obviously let's take a look at his talents. I'm gonna go with module level 3 just because if you want to use him 100%, you would need to have module level 3, or else it will be kind of a waste in using him. There's a really significant part when it comes to first talent. But first of all, the trait of fighters is that they can block one enemy, and then with modules, when Bellone has above 50% HP, his attack speed is increased by 10. Now, the first talent is that each attack causes the target to decrease defense by 8%, stacks up to 5 times. So think of this as a pretty good defense debuff. You're looking at about 40% debuff after 5 hits, lasting 10 seconds. So it's pretty easy because the good attack speed of fighter usually makes it really easy to stack attack speed and debuffs. And according to the remaining HP of the target, Bellone deals extra damage. So it starts from 0% bonus at 100% HP, and then when it goes down to 20% or below the enemy's remaining HP, he will get up to 142% of the original damage. So plus 42% damage. You're looking at about a 0.6 something, I can't quite remember, amount of HP percentage turning to extra damage. So I mean, it's a pretty good one. Obviously this damage will depend on how much the enemy's defense is, so you'll be doing the whole calculation of attack minus defense and then giving it an extra buff. Now you can also stack this with other damage like increased buffs, so obviously that wouldn't be the final number, but still pretty decent, I would say. Now second talent is the interesting part. So this is actually the skill, the talent that gives him decent survivability, I would say. So the second talent is that when he is deployed, he will gain 80% physical and arch dodge. It gradually decreases over 20 seconds down to the base of 40%. So minimum you'll always get 40%, but at the start of deployment it will be 80. So this gives him about a good 20 seconds to deal good damage. I think it's pretty decent. Only thing is that you are still gambling no matter what because of the low defense and low HP. Even just 20%, if you get if it's an enemy that can one-shot you, 20% is still too big for me. So there are times where you have to see how that goes out, and kind of plays with the way you use skill 3 as well. So I'll talk about that later. So that's the basic trait of Bellone. Let's go into the skills. Now here we have the first skill. This is a very base rudimentary skill. At skill 1 M3, the skill cost goes down to 3. It's a aggressive regen SP skill, automatically triggers. Next time he attacks, he will deal 2 damage. He will attack the enemy twice, dealing up to 250% of his attack as physical damage. Now this double hit can trigger the first talent for twice, but obviously you can see that this is kind of a put him down and let him be kind of a skill. Not as good as Mountain skill 2, where if you're trying to go with AFK, Mountain skill 2 just does a lot better, just does block 1 nature of Bellone. And if you want to do AFK, much better operators out there. Highly recommend not to bother with it. So that's skill 1. Next, we have skill 2. During skill activation, his attack area increases to this range. Increase attack speed by 80 every single time he attacks. Deals up to 200% of his attack as physical damage to 3 targets. So this is, I would say, your daily skill where you're trying to deal with multiple targets. It's got good cooldown of 22 SP and good duration. Just basically the same number. If you have any SP generation, goes even faster. And actually pretty good rotation like cycle if you think about it, because 22 and pretty decent, covers most enemies waves. During skill duration, the first talent effect of decreasing enemies defense can stack up to 8 times. So you're looking at 8 times 8, so you're looking at 64% defense decrease. And when you have the max layer, so 8 layer, you will also deal continuous slow effect to the enemy being hit. So this is a pretty good skill in general usage. You have good decrease in movement speed, you have good decrease in defense, so, and then hits 3, and you're dealing about 100k damage in total to any enemy. So you're hitting 300k to 3 enemies. Pretty good skill, good skill cycle. I would say this is your skill if you just bring him for daily usage. Wouldn't necessarily recommend that. I think if you just want daily operator, there are much better ones out there nowadays, especially after the last banner, if you know what I mean. But yeah, if you're like, okay, I want to play with this niche, I just want to use him, your skill. And this is where that module comes in really good as well, because without this layer, extra layer, no, without the module, you're looking at 7% of defense, and then stacked by that, you're losing 8% defense decrease. So that's pretty huge when you're talking about physical damage. So highly recommend skill 3 if you ever really want to use him, and obviously module level 3 if you definitely want M3, module level 3. That's skill 2. And at last we have skill 3. As you can see, this is a skill that takes 8 seconds to use after deployment. Upon activating, his attack will increase by 170%, increase attack speed by 50, and when attacking, there's a 50% chance to deal up to 185% of his attack as physical damage. So that means there will be fluctuation to the damage that he can deal each round he uses the skill. You're averaging at about over 200k damage from what I've seen, but it is a single target currently. Now, there's more to this skill. On activation, Bellone will immediately select a target near his surroundings and teleport to where the enemy is. Now, the pile has to be deployable and so on, so you can't teleport into a hole and drop to the hole and die, and then so on and so forth. Now, Bellone will immediately teleport to the enemy and then start attacking the enemy. And if the attack defeats an elite or boss enemy, or Bellone has not attacked for over a second, he will select a new target and teleport to the new target. Obviously, every time you, let's say if you're dealing with mobs and you don't, after you kill the mob, there'll be a 1 second pause on his attack, and that's in count of the 30-second duration. So this is a skill not necessarily meant for like mob clearing, but more for dealing with like really annoying elites and bosses. And the really interesting thing is you're looking at incredibly high damage per second, and the quality of the damage is really high because he has the decreased defense as well. So that means that he has good attack, good base attack because of the plus 170%, and then he has the decrease in defense that allows him to deal like good damage to most elites and bosses. The only downside is obviously I would say that he's still probably the highest best when it comes to single target bosses. It's just that we just had another banner with another operator that can deal similar amount of damage but AoE, which can cause a slight comparison issue. So if you bring him into a void, it's good on paper, right? However, we don't live in a void, and that's where his biggest issue comes in. The other thing is the skill cooldown is just way too long. 35 seconds feels way too outdated for today's like stage design. And I have to mention stage design, because the way the game is developed is they always have this, there's rotations, right? Every single time, and like the gap between enemies, wave spawns, stuff like that, they have a pattern to it. And right now, it is better if you have a skill like skill 2, slow cooldown, and just enough burst to deal with the enemies that are coming forward, or just have really long duration. This is just somewhere in between, and it's not worth it to withdraw him and then deploying him again. But if you don't, you're also losing out on the skill, the talent to evade. So this is a really awkward skill, and you're really only using skill 3 if you want to have like a single target that you really want to deal with immediately. So that's skill 3. If you want to use him, you will still have to M3, because these two are the most skill, and skill 3 is a very unique effect skill. So if you want to use him, definitely recommend it. So that's skill 3. And at last, let's talk about how he does in old. So first things first, just your usual daily content. It's fine. You're mostly using skill 2, as I mentioned in skill 2 and skill 3. And this is really just the kind of operator that, okay, if you really want to use him, sure, he's usable, but would I recommend you pull him just so you can clear contents easier? Probably not, unless you're playing some sort of niche knights, then that's a different story. But those are slightly decreasing, unfortunately. I really enjoyed those content back in the days. I didn't do it myself, but I love watching them. They are slightly going downhill because of how long the game's been. Other thing is then PC. To be honest, I think he has a good chance. Obviously, he hasn't done well in any CC as of right now, but I think potentially he might be, because of, you know how like CC is one of those situations where if you have like a really niche operator, there's just going to be this, and like if they're really strong in this niche area, there's always a chance of them appearing. So in that case, I would say Bellone skill 3 definitely has a chance for him to be really good. It's just that he's mostly dealing physical damage, and his decreased defense is only he's only good when there's decreased defense requirement, right? But then if you're trying to decrease defense, why don't we just use everybody like previous CCs that had super high defense and then just deal a ton of damage? So there's always the drawback, and then potentially you're looking at a chance that you might use him. But if you're a CC player, you'll pull everyone anyway. So in that case, you might pull him. Next, we have IS. I'm real glad, because this is unlike when Arknights CN first got him. We know a lot more about IS now, especially since IS 7 came out. I can pretty much say that there is mostly no use for him in IS 7 as of right now. From all the meta I've seen, from all my experience, not really a place where I would use him. I would use Ken the third a lot more than Bellone, and then there are other guards that I would prefer to use rather than him. So he's pretty down, like he's pretty low when it comes to the priority list of guard that you're going to be drawing in IS 7. Same thing with IS 6, not really worth using. I would just hard skip, because even though we had a lot of good banners before, finally a time to take a break. The next few banners coming down the line, spoiler alert, will be pretty important, so probably save a little bit for next. We have RA. RA is, yeah, not really worth it. His single target aspect, even his boss killing aspect, is just not good enough. If you want single like target, there's already like better choices out there. Sakiko does a really good job anyway. And if you're just trying to deal with mobs, as I said, not the best when it comes to a lot of mobs. Not the best choice in RA. SSS, roughly the same. Block 1 never goes really well, even though SSS is really easy nowadays. Still just wouldn't recommend him in general. There are better options. Unless you're trying to get a guard to stack the buffs. Sometimes that you can maybe use him because of the low DP cost. But other than that, I don't really see a point in him at all. So that's it for Bellone, and if you should pull him at all. Personally, I really like the visual. I like the story. It's just that I am more prioritizing in these kind of videos, like, okay, for the general player, would I recommend pulling him? And it's just this, in this instance, I just can't see a good reason for me to recommend him as of right now, especially knowing the banners that are coming down the road. not really worth it. So hopefully I helped you made up your mind. If you think that, okay, there's this point of him that you really like, that's why you definitely want to pull him, definitely leave it down in the comments. Love to know. Other than that, the whole thumbs up, subscribe thing, please, that would be great. Thank you. Bye.